The greatest risk is doing nothing. What if it turns out great? What if it's the best decision you've ever made? You are a consciousness experiencing life. This is your story. You should be having a good fucking time, okay? Hi, it's me, Phoenix, and I'm back doing this again, surprisingly. That's my biggest challenge is consistency. I'll be like gung-ho about something, and I'm like, I got a lot of interests, so it's hard to stay focused. But let's jump into it. So this is my truth. This podcast is me sharing my own experiences. And I don't consider myself a guru or a master of any of these topics. I didn't really have anyone to look up to or resources when I was in a lot of those dark times. And I would love to be that for others, even if it's just one person who watches this shit and is like, yo, I needed that. Then this is totally worth it. We're going to talk about why you should start taking more chances. Start doing the risky shit. Calculated risks. We're not talking about being reckless. I mean, you could be a little reckless. Life is short. Fuck it. But that's honestly how I've got to where I am in my life. I've come a long way. That's what keeps me grounded and keeps me happy is I look back on the journal entries. I look back at the pictures of myself. I see how insecure and miserable and how much I didn't know myself. And being in this place now is just, it's worth it. So the things that are probably holding you back are very human. Overthinking, procrastination, perfectionism, the fear of change. You know, what if it turns out fucked up? That's always one of the first things that holds you back. But what if it turns out great? What if it's the best decision you've ever made? So I want to talk about that and enjoying the moment and taking those chances, figuring out what it is that you want and moving in those actions instead of leaving them up here. Because when you're overthinking about it, you're not acting about it. Get it out of your head and start taking action. So I'll talk about some of the decisions that I've made that were sus at first. But it's like once you get used to it, your confidence grows and you start to get more curious. What if I take another chance? You know, one of the first things I'll mention is changing my first name. I don't think doesn't seem very risky to me, but as an adult, it seems strange to some people why I would change my name. And I did that back in 2015. I did get some negativity. My parents didn't really care. My mom thought it was cool because she's just like, whatever, that's awesome. But Phoenix is not my birth name. It's my legal name. I'm not saying go change your name. I'm just saying when you feel moved to do something, there's a reason. Tap into your intuition. And when you feel that nudge, start acting on it. I feel like after I changed my name, I transformed into, not instantly, but it started the transformation of me making a lot of changes, a lot of uncomfortable changes, but they're all worthwhile. And that's why we're here talking about this. I think I got cat hair on my face. He's so cute. It's hard not to like just shove your face in the cat. In that pussy. Anyway, also moving to Florida. So I moved to Florida in 2020. So I moved 1,000 miles away from my hometown. I didn't know anybody in Florida. I had been here once for a family vacation back in I think I was 10. So I didn't know what to expect. I accepted a job and I didn't even apply for the role in Florida. I applied for the location in Valley Forge in Pennsylvania where I lived at the time. And I got the call from the location in Orlando. And I'm like, why are y'all calling me from Orlando? Like, y'all don't have people in Florida to hire? Like, I was just so confused. And she said they were having a hard time finding people with that skill set. This was back when I was a quality control inspector at a machine shop. And this was a defense company calling me for a quality control position. And so I will say it was kind of like a lateral move when you look at it on paper, but because it was such a larger company, so even though the pay was literally the exact same a very similar job title, I was like, there's room for growth. And there was one person that really pushed me to do this. It was my old supervisor, Charles. He was like, just do it. What's the worst that could happen? I have literally doubled my income. And that's a big deal for someone without a degree. So, and that wouldn't have happened if I would have let the people who said, oh, you're going to move to Florida. It's hot down there. They got gators. Like, fuck them gators. My point is, I'm grateful that I felt comfortable to take those risks. I trusted myself enough to be like, well, I mean, I don't know if it was me trusting myself or just saying fuck it, but you have to realize that you can come back from shit. If you don't like how it turns out, just shift again, do something else. But we have one chance to do this. Life is very short. Even falling in love. Honestly, that's the biggest risk for me, because heartbreak and the grief of losing someone that you love, or even worse, someone being disloyal to you, or, it makes me physically ill. I'm a very emotionally connected person, and the things that I deal with internally, like mentally, emotionally, affect me physically. And I know a lot of people deal with that, and it's hard. But you know what? Love is such a beautiful thing. It's fucking worth it. Take the risk. Do it. Just do it. Like, you can't be afraid of disappointing people. You'll gain new skills. It'll increase your confidence. The more you put yourself out there and allow yourself to be in those uncomfortable situations, the more comfortable it gets. It just takes practice, like anything. All of the people who are like in these crazy, like, millionaires, entrepreneurs, have taken some wild ass risks, okay? You don't have to be reckless. You just have to embrace change, embrace discomfort, gain new ideas and opportunities through connecting with people and just talking about what it is you need. You have to put it out there. That's one thing about chances. Even taking the chance of starting a conversation with someone can blossom into so much that will pivot your life wherever the fuck you want it to go. But that's why I always start with, you have to figure out who you are. Figure out who you are and what you want. Think about the things that you've been through and the way you want your life to look in the future, and take those chances and make those changes so that your life can look the way you want it to. My dad, he was 51 when he died. He died 2 years ago. And my dad had a foster mom. He and his brothers, their life had been uprooted a lot. And because as an adult, he finally had stability, he didn't like change. He never got on an airplane. I don't know if he ever left the tri-state area. And he died at 51, not having ever flown anywhere. And I miss my dad so much. Nobody's perfect, but I am who I am because of, everyone I've interacted with, of course. But my dad was a huge impact on me. Just his existence in my life made me who I am. And I love that. And there's so much that he wanted to do. I feel like towards the end of his life, he went through a lot of spiritual realization. And he even told me, he was like, I realized that I didn't love myself. I realized why a lot of my relationships failed were because I did not love myself. And he talked about why he was so detached from people sometimes. He had friends for 30 years, but besides that circle, he did not want to go outside of that. And that just stems from trauma, from people hurting you. When you let them in, you want to shut everybody out. And I've been there too. But life is short. You really don't know how long you're going to be here, and you want to be having a good time while you are here, experiencing love and all the things that you dream of. Just do it. I'm not saying that not everybody has to like shoot for the moon and do everything. That's not, it's okay to be comfortable, but you should at least take a few steps in the direction of what you truly want. If you don't move at all, nothing will happen. And I think that's an even bigger risk. The greatest risk is doing nothing. That's a lot scarier to me than just trying and seeing if it happens. There's nothing wrong with failing. Like, this is kind of dark, but you know, I'm a dark, sick person. So imagine yourself on your deathbed, replaying your life and thinking, fuck, what if I would have taken that job and moved across the country? What if that would have been great? Now I don't have that chance. You are only young and sexy once. These titties are only going to be perky for so long. Okay, I'm not saying that I'm going to swing them around everywhere. I'm just saying you should have a good time while you're young, while you're healthy. I feel like losing people has strengthened my thoughts on this even more. Like I lost grandpa last year. Love grandpa. He was a giver. He was like, grandpa was a real man. For 55 years, he made sure grandma was okay. He made sure everybody was okay. His family was his priority. And man, losing some of my favorite people has pushed me to love people even harder, to live in the present in such an intimate and connected way, because you don't know how long you have. I think it was a documentary or a study. There was something they did, and there was a lot of elderly people, and they interviewed them and said, what is your biggest regret? You know, what are some things that you wish you had done differently if you were young again? And they all said that they wish they would have traveled more. They wish they would have taken more chances. They wish they would have kissed that girl or went on that trip or taken that job. Like, the things that you should just do it. Whatever it is lingering right now that you're like, oh, I don't know. Like this podcast, I was putting this off for a long time. I've had several people tell me to do this. I'm like, how am I just going to talk? Like, what am I going to say? But I have so much to say in the moment. So when I'm on the phone with a friend, especially someone comes to me for advice, or we get into a deep ass conversation, I'm chatterbox, okay? But me sitting here just talking to a camera, I feel like is a different challenge, because I need to be charismatic or kind of have some guidance. But I just pushed myself. I was like, fuck it. That was something my dad used to say. He used to say, fuck them. It doesn't matter what people think. I'm not saying you should have a fuck it or fuck them attitude about everything. I'm just saying that don't let that stop you. We're human. So most of us do care what people think. You can say that you don't. You can try to be indifferent. But it's natural human nature to want to please or impress people or want to see them happy or be accepted. That's normal. You just can't let it dictate how you live your life, because this is your life. You are the main character. You're the one with the controller, okay? Like I said before, everybody else is an NPC. This is about you, okay? I was watching Everything Everywhere All at Once again. I love that movie. Cried both times. And I was thinking about the alternate versions of myself. You know how the main character, she has that version of herself that's like a kung fu master, superstar. I was thinking, I'm like, which one am I? Which version of myself am I? It's okay to be the not as interesting one. But for me, because of what I've been through and where I am at this point, I want to be the zesty one, okay? I am the interesting phoenix. I'm sure there's one that might be more interesting, but I'm definitely not going to be settling for mediocre at any point of my life. I talked about how procrastination gets in the way, how rumination and over replaying thoughts and hypothetical shit. That's what really will get in your head, is the hypotheticals. What if this happens? You know, what if this person leaves me if I make this decision? What if, man, fuck all of that. Because what if it doesn't? I guarantee that if you think back at a few scenarios that you were worried about, or where you were like, man, what if this doesn't work? That you can think back to a time when it worked out fine. But by the time it works out fine, you're not really worried about the fact that you were worried before it. But I want you to think about that next time. Think about how it always works out the way it needs to. There was a book that I read, and he said, the best thing that happens to me is the best thing that could possibly happen. In scenarios where he injured himself, in scenarios where because he injured himself at some point, he fell while he was hiking and ended up in the hospital bed next to someone else who it changed his life. That interaction that he had with this person ended up becoming a best friend. Or he got into a car accident when he had a brand new car, and the person that he met, the person that hit him, he ended up changing that person's life. You have to make your life what you want it to be. All the problems and scenarios that you run into, you can say everything happens for a reason if that works for you. That doesn't work for me. That's too easy. I don't like that. I like to say that you create the reason. When something happens, you decide how to move forward. Because as a procrastinator myself, I need a reason to take action. I need to be reminded that I have to do something. Because if you say everything happens for a reason, you just kind of let it flow and you're just whatever, it'll work out. No, I have to do something to make this work, to turn this problem into cultivating something beautiful. I need that. I have to remind myself to put the effort in. So just think about that. If you find yourself kind of stalling on things or starting things and not finishing them, remind yourself that you have to take the action for it to fall through. You can't just sit back and wait. I was reading something today, actually. It was a picture of people on the Titanic that were on a lower level, that instead of trying to escape when they could have lived, they were down there praying, asking for God to save them. And I'm not going to get religious on y'all. I'm not going to bash religion. We'll save that for a more controversial episode when we talk about organized religion. But instead of taking action and doing something, they just prayed and they all died. And don't quote me, because I'm just saying I saw something in an article and I read part of it. But apparently these people didn't make it, because I'm not saying that you shouldn't pray and that you shouldn't have faith. I'm saying that you are able-bodied and that you also have power within yourself. You are very powerful. You yourself are a creator. You are creating your reality right now with the choices that you make. So you can pray about it and then act on it. The door can open, but you have to walk through it. So next time you're faced with a decision or an opportunity, consider the reward. Consider, even if you have to write out the pros and cons, that works for me a lot, because I used to be really impulsive. So to start making better decisions, I would write out a list of, okay, these are the pros and cons, and don't get caught up too much on it, but realize how heavy that reward is. Would you even be considering it unless the reward was worth it? Like I said, you have to figure out who you are, what you need, what you want from life. It's okay for you to have needs. It's not selfish for you to act on your own goals. And this is why in the last episode I talked about maintaining your individuality in relationships. You should still have your own goals, your own dreams, your own vision of what you want your life to look like. I'm not saying that it has to all be separate from your partners. I'm saying don't forget about what you want. And if you do have to take risks that don't include that other person for your own happiness, you have to do that. And someone who loves you will support you in those risky decisions. Communicate, of course. Let them know, hey, this is why I want to do this. But don't let anything hold you back. Identify what your core values are. Do the journaling. Do the shadow work to find out what's holding you back. Sometimes those traumas that we've gone through that make us afraid of change, they linger, whether it's something from childhood, past relationships, our parents. It'll have you so stuck. And I don't want you to look back and wish you had and wonder. It's okay to be curious, but living in the past will make you depressed. You want to live in right now, because that's the only thing that exists in reality, is the present. I'm going to end with some quotes. I really like quotes. A lot of the insight that I've gotten in my life is through research, reading books, listening to, well, I don't know, I wasn't listening to podcasts when I was a teenager, but doing research, man. Like, I didn't really have anybody to look up to. I'm not going to say my mom wasn't great, but she wasn't my role model. I didn't look up to anyone specific and say, oh, that's exactly what I want to be, you know? I have become my own role model. The future version of myself is my role model. And there's many futures that could be. I'm flexible. I'm not rigid in the way that I want my life to look. I feel like we all have our own version of what success looks like. But I'm doing this for my 5-year-old self. I'm doing this for the fact that I would have never saw me living. I'm going to be 30 in 2 months. I never saw that. The suicidal bullshit that I went through, the depression, the panic attacks, the abuse, all the crap that I went through, even starting from like 6 years old, had me really like hating myself, doubting myself, so much confusion, to have to try to rebuild who I am, figure out what I wanted. This is why I'm sharing, you know, like I didn't have anyone speaking on this kind of stuff. It was different. It's a different time now. And I'm glad that we have social media, and part of it's pretty toxic. But the fact that there's people making TikToks or YouTube videos about this kind of stuff, about growth and healing and understanding your traumas. Like, I didn't know what a narcissist was. I didn't know what an empath was. I didn't know what anxious attachment style was. The things that I can directly look up now, the things that I've read in this book that have told me about who I am directly, things that I had never even read or heard anybody say out loud. Humans have been around for thousands and thousands of years. Whatever it is you're going through, someone else has gone through. If you have no one else to talk to the dead. This lady's still alive, but read books. There's books hundreds of years old that talk about the things that you're going through right now. The details might be different, technology is different, cultures are different, but it's still a human experience. Do the research. Google it. Google your very specific situation that you're going through. Read Reddit posts about it, you know, studies about it. Figure out how to just feeling understood. If you feel lost, if you're in that place, then do some digging. You won't feel so alone once you see someone else be where you were and read about them being into a better situation. Or I don't even want to, this can go for a long time. I'm telling y'all, get me going and I will talk. I didn't even start the quotes. I just started talking about why I like quotes. The quotes I'm going to end with: we are the authors of every next moment. This book of your life is your story. There's only one book. You can always change the chapter. You can make a shift. You can change your name. You can change your job. You can change your hairstyle. I'm using me as an example, of course, but you can change whatever you want. You can shift it. You can have but you still have one book, one life. So just don't forget how powerful you are. This is another quote: we are powerful beings designing our future with every thought and action. Create a reality based on your limitless potential. Believe in the not yet seen and harness the ability to create the life you want. And the last one is: you'll never be able to discover new lands unless you're willing to lose sight of the shore for a long time. And that's what's tough, is not knowing what comes next. The fear of where am I going to end up? But what's on the other side of that is growth, is joy, because you make it joy. That's up to you. It's all about in your mind. You can't feel like a victim of life. Like life is happening to you. You are a consciousness experiencing life. You are in control of your experience. Stop caring what people think. This is your story, and you should be having a good fucking time. Okay, that's my point. Whatever it is, do it. Don't apologize for it. Just do it. And if anything, I think you should document your journey in any kind of way. Whether you take pictures of yourself, no matter what it is, I feel like you should document it. Journal about it. Vlog about it. Even if you don't show anybody, record videos, take pictures, write down some ideas, because the beautiful thing is looking back and seeing the progress. Because especially when you are living in the present, it's easy to forget how far you've come. Man, when I look at those old journals from like 2013, right after I graduated high school, after I got divorced, child, I'm like, who is this? This insecure ass. Like, I be roasting myself. Like, what is this depressed bullshit? You know, I still go through my phases, but it's like, it's important to know where you came from, because the confidence and the drive that you'll have to continue, you're like, I made it through that and I'm here now. What can I do next? And I guarantee you can do amazing things. Thanks for watching. Bye.